Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Yelena Feflatas with My Blooming Heart Hypnotherapy and Coaching, and today in this video I'll be talking about the 3 mistakes that we make when it comes to anxiety and what are those remedies for them. If you read my newsletter, and this video is a special video for those who are receiving my newsletter, you already have checked out all the mistakes that I mentioned in there in detail, hopefully. So I'm not gonna go over them in detail in this video as well. I'm just gonna go right to the remedy itself. Let's start with the mistake number 1. It's this when we think that thinking more will help us out of anxiety. When we are trying to think our way of anxiety, adding more and more layers of thinking. As you already know from my newsletter, it actually triggers our nervous system further into the sympathetic state where our thoughts are not going to be helpful. They actually going to be potentially even more problematic. They might even feed the fire of anxiety even more. So what I suggest is that we calm our nervous system first, and then we come back to thinking again. And there's many ways to calm our nervous system down. And the one that I found for myself and that I've been using successfully is something that made of humming or singing. And I'm not a singer and I'm not a hummer generally either, but somehow humming and singing been such a beautiful tool. And then I learned the science behind it, and you will learn some of it as well today. Plus, then we add a bit of a self-compassion in the form of positive self-affirmations. This way, we actually change the story, the narrative that's running through our mind that tends to be negative when we're feeling anxious. And without further ado, let me get to it. So just a quick reminder, the mistake that we're talking here is the one that we try to think our way of anxiety, and then we actually add to anxiety by doing so. So what are the science behind humming and singing and coming down our nervous system first and then going back to thinking? This is a science called polyvagal theory, which is art and science of befriending your nervous system. It's based upon the body of knowledge that have been worked on and been evolving since the founder, Stephen Porges, and I'm probably butchering his name, has come out with his theory some decades ago. Many scientists and psychologists and psychotherapists been building upon that theory since then. And my favorite, if you want to check it out, I'll be putting the note for it in the description for this video, is the book by Deb Dana called Rooted. Because we want to get rooted in our nervous system, right? In a way that's calming and grounding and keep us centered, no matter what that is that's coming our way. So what is this theory about, and why is it important? This theory is about how our nervous system operates and how we can learn to understand it, and how we can use those understandings to bring ourselves back to the optimal functioning state. And it talks about the vagus nerve, that is actually a cluster of nerves running throughout a whole body, starting from the base of our skull all the way through even intestines. That's why it's called vagus nerve, which means wandering around, if you translate that word from Latin. And it just goes through one system to another and affects our digestion, affects our respiration, the heartbeat, how we engage with the world. What is the most important thing for us to know for this video specifically is how it runs through the apparatus that creates sounds in our throat, which are called larynx and pharynx and our soft palate. Just think about when is our nervous system feels the best, the most. It's when it's basically feeling safe emotionally, physically, when the environment is conducive for us feeling safe. And a lot of times, how do we come to that safety is by communicating with others. We're constantly communicating, constantly engaging, and by talking, by looking them into the eyes, by maybe even humming and singing together, we come to that place of safety because our nervous system co-regulate. So this right here is the mechanism of communicating safety to ourselves and to others. And it's because our bodies, our mammal bodies, evolved to feel safety within a tribe, in a group of other human beings. We're different from reptiles who don't have this social engagement, social interaction, compulsion, so to say, because they did not evolve to feel safe to survive in the company of others. But we human beings, a lot of mammals out there, survived by helping each other. So we gotta socially engage with each other to make sure that we keep ourselves safe from predators, and we kept a mechanism all along from our deepest ancestors, and we're still using this voice to communicate safety. And in this exercise, we are communicating safety basically to our own nervous system by humming, by singing. But what it also does, what is another interesting thing about it, is that humming is might possible but an extended exhale that also engages our parasympathetic nervous system. When we are feeling anxious, we are stuck in a sympathetic nervous system that is all about running and wrestling and fighting and fleeing. It's very engaged and activated, which is good at times, but when it goes overboard, it creates problems. So we're gonna balance it out with engaging our parasympathetic system again by extended exhale that happens when we sing and when we hum. Because what happens when we have an extended exhale is that we are able to stimulate the vagus nerve, and that produces the neurotransmitter acetylcholine that is responsible for inducing the state of calm and focus. But that doesn't end there. When we hum, it also produces in our nasal cavities right here nitric oxides carried through our whole body through breathing, and has many different benefits. That nitric oxide is known to be antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral. It's a bronchodilator. It opens the passages in our lungs and the nasal cavities, and it's very nice perk, especially when we're feeling anxious and everything feels like it's collapsing over here, right? And it's also a vasodilator, meaning that it dilates our blood vessels and helps the oxygen to circulate through our body better. And that's all achieved by humming and singing. So humming and singing is pretty easy to do. And I'm gonna give you a few sounds here to experiment with, but please just take this practice and make it yours. Hum away anything that feels good to you. The main idea is just to take a comfortable posture, probably sitting down and maybe standing up, planted in your both feet. Relax your belly and take a deep breath all the way into your belly. It doesn't mean that all the air needs to go just into your lower cavity. You can fill up your chest as well. Just make sure that you are allowing some air to come in all the way down to relax that part of your body. That relaxation also signals your nervous system to kind of settle in and come down a bit. And when you take that deep breath all the way in and let it out by humming. If you can, do it out loud. I sometimes hum with my mouth closed and it still works. So let's just hum 3 different sounds together today. Take a deep breath in. I don't know about you, but I sense this whole part of my body vibrating, and I'm like, yes, go, this nitric oxide, open up my lungs, antifungal, antiviral, everything. That was number 1, and we can hum next. Take a deep breath. I will do 2. last one. So basically, if you put them together, it would be Mau, 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 Mau. And it sounds like I'm meowing, and it sounds like I'm saying Om in reverse. And I actually got inspired to chant or hum the specific sounds from a very specific video here on YouTube, and I'm gonna put it in the notes just to reference it for you. After we hum, and you can be humming anywhere. I hum when I wash my dishes. That's like my most popular humming space. And you can be doing it out loud, and you can be doing it with your mouth closed. Sometimes I do that when I have my husband around and I don't necessarily want to have a conversation about why I'm humming right now. Or just pick your sound and go for it, and really tune in and all the changes that happens that you feel as a result of it. And the second part of this practice is to add some positive self-affirmations to it that you chant, ideally out loud, because that helps the vagus nerve, that is the parts of it that is innervating your vocal cords and all of this apparatus right here, to get engaged and to produce that nice neurotransmitter to bring calm and focus into your whole body. But at the same time, if you only can sing in your mind silently, that also helps your nervous system to come down. What are those statements that I like to sing and chant? And I'm not a singer, and I'm just gonna go for it right now. I'm not gonna be singing like proper, because I know I'm not one of those. But that's just something to inspire you to do it, even if you don't consider yourself being good at singing. This that I'm gonna give you right now are few statements that you can sing along to bring more comfort and more calm energy into your body. I am safe and I'm in control. I am safe, I'm in control. I am safe, I'm in control. I am safe, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe. I am safe, I am safe. I'm in control. I'm in control, in control. I am safe. And I personally repeat these statements over and over again, and I can feel how it changes how I feel. Because when I'm anxious, my body and my mind feels like they're running 100 miles per hour. But those statements I'm bringing back into my body and into the present moment. I'm safe is a beautiful one. I'm in control is a great one. Another one is, I have done this before and I can do this again. I have done this before, I can do this again. I have done this before, I can do this again. I have done this before, I have done this before, I have done this before, I have done this before. This is a good one before you like perform or do any kind of presentations of sorts. And another three, as the rain start to bang against the roof. Oh, please hold off just a little bit. This shall to pass, this shall to pass, this shall to pass, this shall to pass, this shall to pass. And I'm repeating them over and over again, 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 and again, because otherwise what do? We repeat the negative stuff all over again. We have two options here to repeat those statements that inflammatory for our nervous system, so to say, and the ones that have a calming effect. And lastly, you can also say, I am capable, I am strong, I trust myself, I take one thing at a time, I am exhaling tension, inhaling peace, inhaling peace, inhaling peace. I really particularly invite you to focus on inhaling the peace part here. I am loved and accepted, I'm loved and accepted, I'm loved and accepted. This feeling is temporary, this feeling is temporary, this feeling is temporary. So you can chant the statements. I also chant a few yogic mantras in Sanskrit because I'm a yoga teacher in the past. But that's what I was trying to make the point here. You don't have to chant Sanskrit mantras if you don't want to, or you don't know them, or they don't make any sense to you. Chant whatever else kind of tune that makes sense to you, that reinforcing that you're strong and capable and you are safe, you're loved and accepted at that moment. Those statements will bring you back, plus humming, into a state of calmness from which you can get back into thinking again, and then you can be thinking effectively, actually problem solving and planning, instead of running around in your mind just chewing on the same thoughts. I hope that makes sense. Now let's move on to the skill number 2, to the remedy number 2 that I suggest for those instances when you find yourself criticizing yourself when you are feeling anxious. From the newsletter that I hope, again, you read through, you already know why self-criticism doesn't work when we're feeling anxious. It doesn't really work, period. But especially when we're anxious, it triggers our sympathetic nervous system again, because our nervous system takes self-criticism as an attack. So what I am suggesting here, of course, developing self-compassion as a long-term goal. And what do we do in the very moment when we criticize ourselves? Again, we gotta come back to the body to calm our nervous system. But in this particular exercise, we're gonna go to that place of calmness and centeredness through the heart space. And this technique I borrowing from the Heart Math Institute. It's all over the internet. I will put some notes into the video description as well for you to research this a little more. I learned it a long time ago from my first hypnotherapy trainer, Melissa Tears, and I'm gonna just and here is your book. Here is her book right here. It's called The Anti-Anxiety Toolkit. I love this book. I am getting nothing from promoting it. It's just a wonderful book. It's been around for so long, and I'm surprised why people don't know about it yet. So the technique is called heart coherence, and it will allow us to experience our heart and our breath in a way that actually allows our heart to synchronize with our brain. I'm not going to give you too much science about it because I'm afraid that will be a bit overwhelming, but I'm going to tell you just a little bit in just a moment. The vagus nerve that I mentioned to you before runs through the base of our skull and our throat, and it goes down here, and it actually attaches to our heart as well. And it's called a vagal brake when it attaches. It regulates our heartbeat. So basically, our parasympathetic nervous system and our heart are very much connected in this area. So we are influencing our breath, and when we are focusing on this area, we are engaging our parasympathetic system in a way that can bring calm energy to our whole body. Plus, and this is the second thing I wanted to mention, our heart is the biggest emitter of electromagnetic energy in our body. And when we are doing this heart centered breathing they're about to do in the next few minutes, we're inviting our heart to basically enchant our brain into the very same frequency, so to say. They synchronize and they kind of dance together along into more of a calm and harmonized state. Again, that's just a very little bit of a science behind it. Please go onto the Heart Math Institute and learn everything else. Most importantly, just try it out with me here. And I think experience the positive effects of it is already pretty a good evidence that it works. It's very simple. It's made of just a couple of steps. The first one is becoming comfortable, taking a position that's comfortable for you, perhaps sitting down, maybe even laying down and standing up. Oh, here we are sitting down and taking a couple deep and relaxing breaths, just without any particular focus, just to ground ourselves in the present moment. And one more. can even put your hearts like this folded on top of your chest to help you to focus in that area. And imagine as if you were breathing in and out of your heart. It's just imagination, thought experiment. I like to close my eyes when I do that, so forgive me if I do that right now and you already hear my voice is softening, meaning like my whole nervous system is tuning in into this more of an internal and relaxed state, even by those 2 breaths that I took just now. So I'm going to close my eyes and imagine taking deep breath in and out through this heart space area. And you can be creative in terms of helping yourself to focus on this particular imaginary exchange of air that happens right through our heart. You can imagine inhaling some kind of a peacefully flavored energy in and out, maybe inhaling peace, exhaling worry, or even inhaling peace, exhaling peace, inhaling love, exhaling joy, inhaling joy, exhaling love. When I close my eyes, I can sense some kind of movement of almost some kind of a colored energy that coming in and out. And you don't have to believe in energy and all of that stuff to benefit from this exercise. It's more of a focusing exercise than anything else, because when we help ourselves to focus in this area by doing this heart center breathing, we are inviting our nervous system to the part of it that is responsible for relaxation and resting to really come forward and invite our heartbeat to slow down and send all of the calming and soothing vibes, vibrations, frequencies literally to our brain. So this whole apparatus over here synchronizes and comes to a point of softness and centeredness. And there's another thing that I like to add, a few phrases that I learned from exercises on self-compassion from compassion-focused therapy. And it's a very simple exercise that has 3 parts to it. First step is acknowledging this is some kind of suffering right now that you're going through. And you're saying something along the lines, this is amount of suffering, this is anxiety, oh, this hurts, ouch, oh, this is stress. Just speak one way of saying that, maybe 1 or 2 phrases, and say it 1 or 2 times. We're not trying to focus on that too much, we're just trying to acknowledge it. Give it some space, give it some room to be seen and heard. The next step is to acknowledge the fact that it's just a part of our life. This is our common humanity. We all go through moments like this. This is what happens when you have a life, when you have a human life. This is just part of being human. Everybody experiences it. Everybody suffers sometimes. This is totally normal. While you're taking those deep breaths in and out through your heart space. And the next step and the last one is to bring a bit of that self-compassion energy in by first asking yourself, how can I express some of the kindness towards myself right now? What are those words that come to my mind that would feel the best to me right now? And there are a few examples that I'm going to give to you right now. May I be patient with myself. May I be strong. May I give myself the compassion I need. May I learn to accept myself as I am. May I forgive myself. So basically, all together, it's me taking a moment to take this deep, heart-centered breath while I'm also acknowledging that this is a moment of stress and anxiety, and this happens to everyone. This is our common humanity. And may I be kind, and may I be forgiving, and may I be patient. And this last step, please say all the statements in the world that you need to hear right now to help yourself feel better. We really build this good feelings up by changing the narrative in our mind from repeating all of the negative stuff that we tend to do when we are sucked into anxiety, by bringing that soft and calming energy in, by wishing ourselves all the good things, patience and love and acceptance and forgiveness. Every time you say that word, even if you in your mind, you can feel how it changes your physiology, don't you? I can feel it right now. I'm feeling so much calmer and so much centered. And that's what's the second remedy. Now, the third remedy for those times when we are trying to push the negative thoughts away. You know, there is this range of experience when we're trying to think too much, and on the other side of that is when we have pushed those negative thoughts away and thinking that will work. As you already know, this kind of thoughts tend to come back. Let's get to it. The name of this skill, attitude, exercise, you name it, is called mindful curiosity. And I'm taking it from the book by Dr. Johnson Brewer, who wrote the book Unwinding Anxiety. And I just like, oops. And that's my favorite book. It's right here with me. The main point of this exercise is to change how we approach anxiety. Instead of pushing the thoughts away, or instead of trying to indulge into them, we just become aware of them mindfully and curiously. So we are trying to be slightly and joyfully perplexed with our sensations, our thoughts. We are mindfully curious about them instead of pushing them away or drawing them in closer by like diving into them. Mindful curiosity allows us to have this more of a balanced stance when we are still in the presence of all of those challenging emotions and sensations, but we can be with them and see and notice them changing over time. And by even just paying attention in this very mindful and curious and actually also compassionate way, we can see that these sensations and thoughts actually change. So we want to move away from this pushing away and drawing things in. We just want to be right in the middle. So how do we do this? Next time when you are feeling anxious, or like even just you catching just the beginning of that an anxious moment for you, just take a moment and ask yourself, what are those sensations that I'm feeling right now? You can also be noticing your thoughts, or pick one of either or. It's easier to start with sensations because when we notice thoughts, we have a tendency to slide back into following them a little too closely. So when the next time you feel anxious, just take a moment and feel into what is that sensations that you're feeling the most. It is a tightness somewhere, is maybe a burning, is it maybe a constriction of some sorts, maybe tension, restlessness, shallow breath. Let's say when I feel anxious, I can immediately notice like my throat closing in, my stomach is kind of getting tight, and there's like this overall sense of restlessness all over my body because it's just a little bit too activated. And that's what I feel, and I can take stock of these sensations without blaming them, without going into analyzing them, just being present with them, naming them. Okay, this is what's happening right now. It's factual. matter of fact. And then just exploring them a little bit in the sense of like noticing, okay, this is in the front of my body, this is at the back, and this is feels like more to the side. We're just being curious. That's all what we're doing here. We are investigating with a curious mind what's happening with us in this very moment. And I don't know, maybe you're already seeing we are forming a relationship with those sensations that are balanced, that are not pushing them away, they're not diving deeper into them. We are just being right next to them, side by side. And then you notice what other sensations are present and how they change. And maybe you can breathe into them and see, what does that do? What does that do to the sensation? Does it perhaps change? It might not necessarily dissolve right away by you taking a couple deep breaths into that spot, but it can change. It doesn't stay stuck. It's always a bit fluid from moment to moment, and that's an interesting thing to notice as well. And then you also, from this point, notice your thoughts and become mindful of like, okay, this is what I'm thinking about right now. I am having a thought about me not being able to complete a certain task. I'm having a thought about this, and that. I'm having a thought about blah, 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 blah. And perhaps you think about blah, 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 blah. I do think about certain blah, 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 blah sometimes. And you can see when you say to yourself, I'm having this thought, actually creates that distance between you and those thoughts, because that invites you not to self-identify with them too closely. So it creates space in between you and those triggering thoughts. And in that space, we can choose how to act better in response to them instead of pushing them away for them just to come back even stronger the next time, next moment. And thinking more of those thoughts and diving into the abyss of anxiety even more intensely when we are noticing our sensations, and take an honest and curious look at them by just naming them. And we name our thoughts by saying, I have that thought. We create that space, that mindful space, that curious space where we can then choose how to act accordingly and more effectively approach anxiety from this grounded space within. So please go ahead and try out all of those exercises on whichever one that stood out for you the most. Humming and singing plus positive self-affirmations, heart-centered breathings plus acknowledging the suffering that is present for you at that moment, and offering yourself some words of forgiveness and love and acceptance. And lastly, becoming curious of your thoughts and creating that space in between you and the thoughts and sensations by merely naming them and being curious about them. And let me know which one you like the most, which one you feel will be the most effective for you. Please just drop in a comment all of your questions and all of your discoveries in this video. I hope so much it was helpful. Please, if you want to stay in touch with me, send me a DM, direct message on Instagram, My Blooming Heart Hypnotherapy, all in one word, and I hope to see you there. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next newsletter if you are subscribed to my newsletter, and to more videos to come on this channel. Much aloha to you from the Big Island, and much appreciation.